Welcome everyone to our Virginia legislative preview. We're so excited to have everyone join us here tonight. We're going to give folks a couple seconds here to join, but we'd love to have you drop into the chat where you're joining us from, your name, and what area of Virginia you live in. And we'll do some quick introductions of our team who's here with us, and then we will get started. So starting with myself, my name is Alexis Miller, and I am the Director of Community Impact at Solar United Neighbors and our Atlantic Southeast Community Impact Specialist. And I will turn it over to Liz to introduce herself.
Hey everybody, Liz Beasy. I'm Policy and Rural Energy Director at SUN. I've been here about 3 years and I support policy work in Virginia and the same region that Alexis works in. We'll pass to Aaron.
Thanks, Liz. I'm Aaron Such. I'm the Atlantic Southeast Region Director, former Virginia Program Director. I'm based in Richmond, and our Atlantic Southeast region is Virginia, Maryland, DC, Florida, and Puerto Rico now. So I will hand it over to Benjamin.
Hey y'all, Ben Hoyne, Program Director now as of 6 weeks ago or so. Maybe 2 months, and I'm based in Richmond as well. I'm thrilled to do this work. Thanks, Julie. I've been doing policy program work in Virginia for about 5 years, was in Oregon for 5 years before that, and DC before that. So thrilled to be here doing this work. So and thank you all for joining us tonight. We're really thrilled to have you as we're kicking off 2023 General Assembly starts Wednesday. So I will turn it back to Aaron to set things up for us, and Liz will chat, and then I'll clean it up here a little bit. So Aaron, take it away.
Thanks, Ben. And yeah, we're happy to have your experience legislatively here in Virginia. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why our constituency at SUN is important, the different levels in which we lobby or advocate on. We're really going to be focusing on the Virginia state level General Assembly, and some successes that we've had, and why your voice and us helping facilitate your voice is really important. So SUN, as you know, we represent a constituency of solar owners and prospective solar owners. We advocate on a nonpartisan level, basically fighting for your solar rights. We advocate on very practical levels, your access to incentives like net metering, things like caps, access to community solar, protecting consumers. We advocate on many different levels. As I mentioned, we're going to be focusing mostly on the Virginia General Assembly, but we advocate on the local and municipal levels, whether it's a municipal utility, or what we're doing right now is working in Prince William County to try to reform that solar permitting process, which is actually the worst in Virginia. We work in rural electric cooperatives or distribution utilities to make sure that they are responding to their members. And then on the state level, and here in Virginia, that would be the State General Assembly, as well as the governor's office, and occasionally to the State Corporation Commission. Additionally, we do work on the federal level. So we're really proud to be able to key you into those opportunities on all different types of advocacy. Since I've joined the organization in 2014, since we launched in Virginia, we have had successes really because of the voice of solar owners like you all are prospective solar owners. In 2020, we were able to pass a piece of legislation that made it harder for homeowners associations to block solar installation in those communities. We were instrumental in supporting the Virginia Clean Economy Act, which among many things opened up net metering caps. It produced an SREC incentive, which is a production-based incentive. Additionally, we work to open up community solar, as well as just a number of different things that work for solar owners on the practical level. So our voice is really important. I would say your voice, because there's nothing more powerful than a real person speaking to a legislator. Our constituency is nonpartisan. We have just as fierce advocates on both sides of the aisle, and that's really powerful, especially in these times that are really divided. That's solar is one thing that we can all support. So, you know, our job is to help you facilitate that voice, give you the knowledge to advocate on a very pragmatic level in state government or on the federal level, and in this case, the General Assembly. So I'm going to turn it back over to Benjamin and lead us in, but it's a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to support the region. Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron. And that was a really great, overview and level set for where we are here in Virginia. And as Aaron mentioned, we're doing work on the local level. Certainly our Prince William County work is ongoing. So if you are a resident or do business in Prince William County, certainly encourage you to reach out to us or check out our action on Prince William County specifically. And that also kind of brings us to another element of our work that we're not really focusing on tonight, but did just want to touch on briefly. That's our federal work. So I wanted to hand it over to Liz Veazey to briefly kind of just bring you all up to speed on some federal aspects of Sun's work. Liz.
Cool, thanks, Benjamin and everybody. So I guess just a quick intro for me. I got started sort of organizing around solar and clean energy in college about 20 years ago, and I've been doing some sort of clean energy climate work ever since. And really excited to be at Sun, continuing to do this work and work on solar policy. And as sort of Aaron said, Sun is a national organization, and we work on policy from local, city, county to utility, state, and national. And one of the big things we've been working on recently is extending the solar tax credits and other sort of solar and storage incentives that were originally in the Build Back Better Act, which we worked on. But then those passed in August of last year in the Inflation Reduction Act. And that was really big, exciting thing that finally extended solar tax credits for 10 years at 30%, as many of you probably know, and it bumped up the rate last year from 26% to 30%. So that was huge. It also added storage, standalone storage can now qualify as well, and nonprofits and governments can now access the solar tax credit. So those are really huge steps forward to help more people access solar, along with the expansion of funds for the Rural Energy for America program, or REAP, which helps agricultural and rural small businesses go solar. So we're really excited about those policies helping many more people go solar. And I'll share some of the resources that we have on those in the chat, but we have an info page on the Inflation Reduction Act, and we have a webinar on the Rural Energy for America program coming up in early February. So if you have a rural small business or agriculture business, or you know someone, please help us by sharing that, and I'll put those in the chat soon. But excited to work with you all on supporting better solar policies in Virginia and beyond.
Great. Thanks, Liz. And yeah, that's just a quick kind of touch at some of our local work, at some of our federal work. Really great opportunities to engage with Solar United Neighbors in whatever level of government that you want to. So brings us to tonight's main event, the legislative preview. Just want to do a double check to make sure I shared my screen correctly. Liz, I can see you. It's looking good on your end. Okay, wonderful.
Wait, then I think you want it's showing like your view too. I think you want it to just show the.
Oh, is it not showing the whole thing? So this is what we get.
We're seeing the presenter view. Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
I was looking at the chat and I.
Let me try that again. How about that? So which one are you seeing now?
Now you're good.
Now we're good. Okay. All right. Moving forward. And so let's do that. So, all right. So again, thanks for coming, everybody. Thrilled to be here for the Solar United Neighbors of Virginia 2023 legislative preview. we'll just run through a few things and then certainly have plenty of time for questions. And so first and foremost, wanted to just kind of go over some logistics for the General Assembly. So this might be a kind of a repeat for some of you, but others it might be first time you're hearing this. So the Virginia General Assembly begins this Wednesday, January 11th. Should run for about 45 days. There's always a little bit of room, a little bit of margin for error, but as of now, we're expecting it to go until February 25th. One thing to note, and I imagine most folks know this, is that Virginia's state legislation, so the House of Delegates and the state Senate, is elected in odd years, and so that would be in 2023 here in the fall. And so unlike in Washington, D.C., where we just saw, a speaker election and all that sort of stuff, none of that will be going on here. We're actually rolling into the second year of this current House of Delegates session, and actually the fourth year of the Senate session. And so the leadership and all that sort of stuff is in place from last year and beyond. So there won't be any changes in terms of that. So just kind of highlighting a few kind of the three main branches of government, at least in terms of decision making for legislation. The executive branch, I think we all know, is Republican. Glenn Youngkin is Republican. Additionally, the Lieutenant Governor is Republican as well. In the House, there is a bit of a House Republican majority. It's 52-48. And in the Senate, there is a slim Democratic majority, 21-19. Those numbers are a little off because technically there's actually 3 special elections tomorrow, 2 in the House, one's in Fairfax County and one's in Rockbridge County, a Republican and a Democratic seat. Both of those, I think, are expected to stay in control of those parties, and that would keep the numbers in the House at 52-48. Shouldn't be much there. In the Senate, however, there is kind of what we call a toss-up race or a purple seat that is up. It is Jen Kiggins from Virginia Beach, who's just gone to Congress to replace Elaine Luria. And so that 19R on the Democratic majority is up for grabs. That election is tomorrow in Virginia Beach. And so we either be looking at a 21-19 Democratic majority or a 22-18 Democratic majority. And then also possibly we'll have a resignation later in February. Senator Jennifer McClellan is widely expected to be elected to Congress to replace Donald McKeachin. That election, I think, is on February 21st. Don't know specifically on when she would resign her state Senate seat. You can see that this session would go till February 25th. There's kind of some gray area. Maybe other folks are more in the know than I am, but kind of a bit of a musical chairs in terms of Senate seats and whatnot. The great news, the good news, the wonderful news is that, as Aaron mentioned earlier, solar is nonpartisan or solar is bipartisan. And really, we know that folks of all political stripes believe you should be able to generate electricity on your property without the government or government sanctioned monopoly stopping you. So this doesn't really affect the issues that Solar United Neighbors working on. Everything we work on is bipartisan by and large, but did just want to kind of outline that there's some things happening, especially if you live in Virginia Beach, in Jen Kiggins' current district, Frank Wagner's longtime district, just making sure there's an election tomorrow. And so with that logistics out of the way, we'll kind of first talk about some things we're tracking, and we do have a few poll questions that we would like to engage with you to make sure we understand, what you're looking for and what's important to you. And our first one is, who's your electricity provider? And there's going to be 2 important questions that we're going to ask you tonight. One is, who provides your electricity? So a rural electric cooperative. There's 13 rural electric cooperatives in Virginia. That could be, Shenandoah Valley, Rappahannock, Powell Valley, Novak, all sorts of different rural electric cooperatives. Appalachian Power, also known as APCO, Dominion Energy, or perhaps you have a local government municipal utility like in Harrisonburg or a few other spots. So just have you fill that out when you can. And as we're moving along, to kind of let you know about some bills that are that we're tracking. I guess first and foremost, no bill to track. I imagine many of you were familiar last year when we, in 2022, when we had a rural electric cooperative governance reform bill. We will not be having a bill this year. We're working kind of in the off session with the rural electric cooperatives and some of our other partners to really try to find some common sense and common ground solutions to that. And so no real update to provide in terms of that, but in case you were tracking that last year and wondering what happened to it, just wanted to let you know we certainly are continuing to work on it, but not in the legislative arena this General Assembly. Some other bills that we're working on, I should say tracking, and this list will grow. There's a Solar on Schools bill that Senator Favola and Delegate Subramaniam are putting together. And really what that would do is provide assistance to interested school divisions to add solar to new build or renovation of schools. Most importantly, and this is where the potential partisan divide in the Senate could play a role, is on the Clean Economy Act repeal attempts. Again, I haven't really heard of anyone that's unhappy with the residential solar provisions in the Clean Economy Act. And all of these repeal attempts occurred last year. As I mentioned, it's pretty much the same General Assembly this year as it was last year, and all of those attempts were stopped in the Senate, if not in the House. And so we're certainly keeping an eye on it. I don't know that there's anything to be alarmed about, but we certainly will let you know if that situation changes. And then kind of one of the biggest issues that we're tracking is shared solar. And just to kind of give you a quick primer on shared solar, what shared solar is really it's a solution or potential solution for folks that for whatever reason cannot have solar on their home. That could be their roof isn't sufficient. They have too much trees and shading. The roof might not be facing the proper direction, or there's blockage from a neighbor. Could be they're a renter and they don't own the roof, or in a condo, HOA, what have you, don't own the roof. Could be they're not planning to stick around for 25 years and won't see the payoff of their system. They're here for 5 years or something like that. And so it's really a great way for folks to take advantage of solar without having it on their actual roof. And the way it works is, this is kind of community solar or shared solar, where there's a large scale solar array that might be, in an ideal case, it's in the neighborhood or in the region at a minimum. And so that is kind of the basics of shared solar. The specifics on how far away it is from the place where it's generated vary depending on the case. There is actually legislation to create a shared solar program specifically in Dominion Energy territory. And it has worked its way, or is working its way, through the regulatory process, the State Corporation Commission. Unfortunately, as it was doing so last year, there was a minimum bill as part of any shared solar bill, and the State Corporation Commission mostly sided with Dominion when setting the bill at an average based on 1,000 kilowatt hours, which is kind of a standard measurement of $55 a month. That would be in addition to the cost for the solar that you would get from a third party, and so that would pretty much renders the program unusable for most folks paying full freight. There is a carve out for low income households where they do not have to pay that minimum bill. So we are certainly starting to see some, at least press releases and project announcements that some of these at a minimum low income shared solar programs and solar arrays will get built. But in terms of folks that have to pay that, again, on average $55 a month bill, that is certainly proving to be a sticking point. So that's the current status of legislation right now. There will be a bill, I'm told, introduced to kind of reduce that minimum bill. Mostly this is being headed up by a group called CCSA, which is the Coalition for Community Solar Access. We're certainly keeping track of that bill. I don't know that there's a bill number out. I haven't seen it on LAS as of yet. If there's opportunities for engagement, we will certainly let you know. And then secondly, there's another shared solar bill that would be in Appalachian Power Territory, also known as APCO. So again, right now there's currently an existing program in Dominion Territory where they're working to refine the minimum bill. And then in Appalachian Power Territory, there's legislation to create a program, I think somewhat modeled on the Dominion program, but also would have a minimum bill reduction or formula. And that's really also being headed up by CCSA, Coalition for Community Solar Access, but in addition, Appalachian Voices and the Southern Environmental Law Center, I know, are working closely on that. Don't have a bill number on that one as well. We will keep tabs and again, keep you informed of opportunities as they present themselves. So another poll question, just kind of wondering, for you, is shared solar important? Would you be interested in making shared solar available and affordable to everyone in your electric service territory? Simple yes or no question. And then we'll move on to, our priority legislation, which is first and foremost, we have a kind of our top bill is a solar consumer protection bill. Fortunately in Virginia, we have a tremendously mature solar market, and that's thanks to some wonderful local installers that have been working really hard in Virginia for many years, many decades. Organizations like Solar United Neighbors and Aaron Such, consumers, folks that have bought solar arrays, and most importantly, advocates like all of you that are on this call right now. You've really helped create a tremendous solar industry, residential solar industry here in Virginia. Unfortunately, with a great market comes the potential for some bad actors. And so I think we've seen some cases, you potentially have seen some cases like Pink Energy might be one of the most egregious ones, but this is where bad actors will mislead or misinform potential solar customers, during the sale. Might be statements like everybody qualifies for a federal tax credit when that's not true, or you'll never have to pay an electricity bill again, or on and on with inaccurate and misrepresentations. And so, and additionally, there's predatory contracts that really lock people in and prohibit them from class action lawsuits and getting the Attorney General's office involved. And so really a few bad actors are really, trying to spoil the bunch. And this is a problem for the entire solar industry here in Virginia, the residential solar industry in Virginia. And it's something we're trying to fix. And so another poll question we have is have you come across a questionable sales pitch, whether that's, on your doorstep or online or anywhere else? We certainly would like to hear from you if that's the case. Our legislation that we're pursuing this year is to simply create a work group and propose solutions. So the work group would convene at least 3 times in 2023. There would be folks like ourselves and consumer protection advocates, the Attorney General's office, the solar industry, electric utilities and electricity providers, all would come together, convened by Virginia Energy, as a chance for us to come together, look at solutions. South Carolina has taken this issue on. I think other states have as well. And so really to kind of bring a group of folks together, a group of stakeholders together outside of the session in 2023 to identify some solutions and then ideally put forward those solutions, whether they're legislative or regulatory or what have you, for 2024 and beyond. That's not to say we aren't trying to find ways to find solutions in the near term. I know 2024 is a ways away for folks that need help right now. And we're certainly striving to identify those possibilities as well. Ooh. And so how can you help? Well, the first, and foremost, I think the second most important question, in addition to knowing who your your electricity provider is knowing who's your legislator. There's a great website. You can see at the top the list there. You can just Google who's my legislator Virginia, and that'll pop right up. And again, this is state legislator. I think many of us know, Mark Warner and Tim Kaine and whatever congressperson we have, but a state legislator, House of Delegates and state Senate is something that sometimes we're not quite as familiar with. So I want to make sure you know who that person is. Also, I'll just add an addendum that that person could be changing next year. This is the last year of the 10-year cycle where we have these current districts due to redistricting and the census every 10 years. The districts get changed around a bit, and that's certainly true moving into the next election. That'll be really the primary will be taking place later this spring, and the general election will be in the fall. So this might be your last chance to have this current legislator you have, whether their district will be different or they're retiring or losing a primary or whatnot. So who's my legislator is important thing to know. We will have a email action alert coming out on Thursday. As I mentioned, the General Assembly starts Wednesday. We should have a bill number no later than Wednesday. There's a lot of commotion going on, so we're trying to give it a little bit of time. But again, the email alert coming out Thursday. If you know of anyone that has suffered from a misleading solar sales proposal, whether it's yourself, a friend, neighbor, what have you, those stories, as Aaron mentioned at the beginning, there's nothing more powerful than somebody talking to their legislator. And if somebody, if you're willing to share, that certainly could go a long way in amplifying why this issue is important and needs to get worked on. And we are going to have a fact sheet. The fact sheet's ready to go. It's just waiting on a bill number that'll be posted. And then we encourage you to call your legislator. And so, final poll question would be: are you willing to contact your legislator to help stop misleading solar sales tactics? Whether that's a phone call, whether that's an email. If you're in Richmond, the Richmond metro area, or even you're not, are you willing to come down and meet somebody in person? The other great things is many of these legislators on the weekend, usually on a Saturday, probably starting in a week or two, they'll do kind of local town halls in their district where you can kind of go and talk to them and tell them what's important to you. So you might have opportunities in your hometown or in your local region to interact with your legislator. So multiple ways to do that. And then finally, just need you to help spread the word, whether that's through social media, whether that's your friends, your neighbors, what have you. The more folks that are made aware of this issue and are willing to make legislators aware of this issue and its importance, the better. So that kind of brings us to the end of kind of what we're working on. And again, solar consumer protection is our number one issue that we're focused on for this General Assembly. Certainly tracking the shared solar legislation, the Clean Economy Act, repeal attempts, and many more things that will no doubt come on our radar. So with that, wanted to open the floor to questions. I don't have the chat in front of me, so I'll try to get that up. But Alexis, if there's anything in the chat, please let me know.
Yeah, Ben, Cynthia just posted a question that said, do you have any fact sheets on rising electricity rates, both historic patterns of rate increases and projected future increases to use in a workshop on solar?
I don't know that I have any fact sheets as I'm looking at, but I certainly, that information is available. I guess the question would be, how soon do you need it? And you can shoot us, as mentioned, the VA team at solarunitedneighbors.org is probably the best way to contact us. And that way, if somebody else internally at our team is more able to handle that. But yeah, that information is definitely available. Usually of the solar industry, SEIA, which is the Solar Energy Industry Association, and others have that. I know Dominion and others also file that at the SCC, I think every year, at least every 3 years. And so we would be able to find that for you. But yeah, knowing when you need to buy, is it in a day, a week, a month? Because certainly it's busy times right now. But yeah. Let's see, I see Maud's question. Can you please expand on the energy storage tax credit available in Virginia? This might be for Liz as part of the IRA. You want to take that one away? I'm guessing that's battery storage tax credit.
Sure. Now that the Inflation Reduction Act passed last year, there's now a 30% tax credit for solar and for storage. And so the storage doesn't have to be connected to solar, or so it can be standalone or it can be connected to solar, and anything starting this year that is connected should be eligible. You can, email that email address they're putting in the chat, the VA team at solarunitedneighbors.org, if you have questions too, and you can check out the our info page on the Inflation Reduction Act, which I can put in there again.
I see another Q&A from Kevin. Do we think shared solar will be available in Richmond in the near future? For low income households, I believe that it is, getting worked on. I know there's been at least some projects closer than others, although they're also running into challenges with interconnection and some other things where some unexpected costs are arising. So I don't know that anything would be available this year in 2023, but I would anticipate, I would hope that it'll be available in the next couple of years. But again, that might be specific to low income households. In terms of broader than that, I haven't heard of any projects that are getting the green light, and for folks that they're paying the full minimum bill. Also not kind of in that industry in terms of, we're not a part of building those projects, and so I'm not the most in the loop on that. But I haven't seen any press releases or anything like that, I guess is my point. So probably a few more years, at least for the Richmond shared solar. I see Julie's question, plans, evaluate opportunities to distribute solar in developed areas. Too much focus on utility solar in Virginia. That's a great question. We don't focus on utility solar. We focus on residential. Are there studies to evaluate opportunities? I don't know. I don't know who would be the best person to contact or group to contact about that. Almost like a Rocky Mountain Institute or something like that would conduct a study. Liz, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that. A bill studying solar along highways. I feel like I've heard that, whether it's from the federal standpoint, right of ways and all that. Yeah. Again, we really work on things under 25 kilowatts. And so it's just not really in our bailiwick. We are trying to get people access to solar, and sometimes those projects are via shared solar, and those projects are going to be larger than 25 kilowatts. But just as a small ragtag group of folks, we haven't had time to work on that. Let's see.
Yeah, but in some of our conversations, Benjamin, we have had conversations with folks around community solar and potential. We were involved in some of the stakeholder conversations coming out of legislation in 2022 around shared solar in Virginia. And I think we, along with many groups, advocated for potentially incentivizing those projects on brownfields, parking lots, buildings, and sort of those places may cost more, but we know that that's better than, building, tearing down a bunch of trees to build solar. So, we are sort of part of that conversation.
There you go. Liz knows more than me on that. I'm mostly focused on helping folks go solar here in Virginia. and trying to pass some legislation as well. So yeah, that's why it's good to have a far-reaching group. Marshall's asking about solar development on agriculture land. Again, I mean, unless Liz knows otherwise, that's just not space that we're working on. That might be, I don't know, environmental groups or maybe more the Solar Industry Association or something like that. I did see a question on the solar on schools, so I'm posting the bill from Senator Favola. I don't really have any more information than that. It's just other folks have passed it on to me that I think it's more or less assistance, kind of consulting assistance would be available to school boards and superintendents, et cetera, to folks that would be interested in that. And so they can kind of be provided advice and guidance on how they would go about going solar. It's not a mandate, it's not mandatory, but simply making that information available to those school districts that want it. Let's see, I see Liz is typing an answer to William. Kevin's asking for cost for panels, rough guess. Well, Kevin, I encourage you to come to one of our Solar 101 information sessions where we tell you that, a 2,000 square foot home, none of them are identical, right? The bigger question on then how big your house is and this and that is, what's your electricity usage? Do you have kids? What do you like your thermostat set at? Do you have an electric vehicle? Do you have an electric furnace? Like all these things factor into what your usage is. And so, it'd be really difficult to put an approximate cost of panels. I assume when you say panels only, I mean solar panels and inverters, et cetera, solar array, and not batteries or something like that. We liken buying solar to buying a car, and it can be affordable or it can be as expensive as you want. So, but yeah, we'll be doing solar co-ops in Hampton Roads, Northern Virginia, in the Richmond area this year, later on this year, where you'll get a great opportunity to find a low cost or a discounted price on solar. And we'll also be doing some stuff in Shenandoah Valley and New River Valley as well. So encourage you to check that out on our website. So, and I'm trying to read how much solar residences commercial have been affected by inflation. Well, that's a great question. Not necessarily relevant for legislation, but absolutely everything. Inflation has affected, and supply chain issues have affected the cost of solar. It's certainly gone up. There was also a trade case at the Commerce Department in April, May of last year that also kind of held up the industry for a month or two, and that made supply chain issues even worse. And so certainly the solar industry has started to recover from that, but just in terms of labor, right? I mean, labor is expensive, more expensive everywhere than it was before, and that's true in the solar arena as well. And about half the cost of a solar installation is labor, so certainly that's gone up. So it's been affected just like every other industry has been affected. I think I've covered all the questions that I see. I see a couple more have just popped up, but if I missed one way up above, please let me know. For how many years can we sell SRECs? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think it's 25, but unless there was or as long as they're producing. But Liz, maybe you know better. That was part of the Clean Economy Act, I think, as it passed a few years ago. I don't think it sunsets at 10 years or 15 years or anything like that. Dominion, the best contact about residences or farms. I guess I'm not totally understanding the question. Do you have if you had a solar, usually your solar installer is the best contact. They have relationships with the utilities. And so they would be able to help, get you connected, and any other questions you would have. John, I hope I'm right as well. I like selling my SREX every quarter. Is there revenue available to support local solar installations? I'm guessing you're meaning tax credits or some type of funding for local solar installations. I don't know that Virginia has any revenue available for local solar installations. The only financial incentives that we're aware of are the federal tax credit here in Virginia. I mean, there are some other federal stuff, as Liz mentioned, on the REAP program and a few others if you were agricultural land and some other stuff, but I don't think there's any Virginia specifics. If Youngkin takes Virginia out of RGGI, will this stop the SREC incentive? I'm not under that impression. I think the SREC's legislation was not a part of RGGI, so I don't believe it would be affected. So Cynthia, the VCEA does not raise money. I think you're meaning RGGI. RGGI raises money, and that money, as part of the legislation, was set aside for kind of coastal resiliency, primarily in Hampton Roads, and then also flooding and energy efficiency. And there was a lot of negotiations into that and how that pie got divided up. And local solar was not a part of that equation at the end of the day. There's a great question. Sam, what are my thoughts by large solar companies that don't inform the homeowner about the SREC program nor set them up to collect them? Large, small, it doesn't really matter. As kind of part of our, this is one of the reasons for the Solar Consumer Protection Act or work group that we're creating is to make sure there's transparency on solar renewable energy credits, on tax credits, and on ownership of the system and everything else. And so I don't know how frequently I run into this issue myself. Again, most of the installers that we work with don't do this. And so in like our solar co-ops, that's not an issue. So, but certainly we hear from folks, frequently that are having issues. I'll say this, usually they don't even, SRECs are about 3 to 5 steps down the line in terms of issues. It's having the system work, the loan and all those things. SRECs is not on the top of their mind, but probably should be. Yeah, so it's a challenge and part of why we would want to work on that. So. Robert Nutter, dark fiber requirement. Is this being applied to community solar? Plans to fight it? That's a great question. I mean, I've read articles about it that I imagine you might have too. I couldn't tell you any more than what I've read in the articles, which is potentially, again, as I mentioned, there's some financial costs being incurred. I don't know if there's plans to fight it. That would be more of a community solar kind of industry question. Again, CCSA, Coalition for Community Solar Access, is leading the bill. Whether there might be some stuff around that, but I don't know, and I don't want to get the wrong information. And so again, that's the kind of the community solar industry that would be taking that on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's definitely, people are very aware of it, right? And it's slowing down projects. And this is really just one example of some of the many ways that we're seeing utilities like Dominion slow and stop new distributed solar in their territories. So it's definitely something that we are aware of. And hopefully some of the other community solar, I mean, they are pushing back. That article, I think, has some of the information. They're trying to push back, but hopefully they'll keep pushing and we'll be able to see more community solar actually get built in Virginia.
And Cynthia, your question about RGGI and the VCEA Clean Economy Act. Again, that was before my time at Sun. I don't believe the RGGI was part of the VCEA. It was a separate, my recollection, separate bill. It even went to a separate committee. The committee Chap Peterson chairs in the Senate. Chesapeake, Agriculture, Chesapeake, whereas the VCA went to Commerce and Energy. So those are separate things, as far as I'm remembering. Kevin's buying power from Arcadia, who's paying Dominion for you, purchasing wind in Texas. Are we familiar with Arcadia? I'm familiar that they exist. I don't have any personal experience using them, so you would know more than me, Kevin. Where do we expect the prices of the XRX to go in coming years? Does a $75 cap apply? $75 cap applies, yes, to all residential systems, so the price will not go above $75. Where we expect it to go, well, I mean, that's kind of like asking me to predict the stock market. It'll be between $0 and $75 is my expectation. And I certainly can't provide advice on whether it's best to play the market or get a 3-year payout or a 5-year payout or 25-year payout. That's certainly up to you and your household.
But there are good conversations on Sun's Virginia listserv around that. So I would encourage people who are interested in, talking more about SREX and what they think the market will do to join the listserv and chat with others about that. Alexis, you can share the link, I think, to join that in the chat. And you can ask other policy questions about solar in Virginia. The listserv is a great place for that.
Yeah. Cynthia's asking if there's places that evaluate different solar installers. I don't know of a comprehensive list. Some of the lists that folks look at, like a Better Business Bureau and other places, some of them are kind of a pay-to-play model. And so, yeah, I don't think there's any one place out there that is the be all end all. You kind of, like many things, you should gather information from here and there in another place and kind of cross tabulate it but most importantly, probably talk to your friends and neighbors. That's the most trusted messenger, is folks that and have had firsthand experience. So Stephen's asking for the 100% offset rule for co-ops. I'm guessing he means that you can't size your system larger than 100% of your kind of annual usage. That was changed, I think, in the VCEA, where in Dominion territory it's 125%. I think it's 100% in the rural electric co-op territory. I'm not positive on APCO territory. So I don't know when you got your solar array, Stephen, but it might have already been changed. But certainly they wouldn't change it just for solar co-op customers. So Cynthia's asking about local government permitting. Well, Prince William County is an issue, as we mentioned at the top of the show here, that we're working on. Most counties do a really good job, and so yeah, it's there's also a new app put together by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, NREL, that is called Solar App Plus. That's specifically a residential solar permitting app that is free for local governments, municipalities to use. I know Virginia Energy is working on spreading that. I think Harrisonburg and Culpeper have adopted it already. It's still in the early stages. And so that's certainly something to check out. Oh, the questions are going fast and furious here. Let's see. Do we have any guidance for adopting good zoning ordinances? It's not generally is a space we play in zoning. I don't know, Liz, if you have thoughts.
I think we have done some work in Maryland on community solar and zoning. But yeah, I would say that it would be good for them to email the VA team, and then, yeah, maybe one of you can tag me and I can help you respond.
Sure. And I think Liz responded about Prince William. Unless I missed anything else. Yeah. This has been a robust conversation. Just got a few minutes left if folks have any other questions. But again, I want to thank everybody for joining. Those of you that have made it till the end, we really appreciate it. As mentioned, we'll be in touch with our solar action alert on Thursday, I believe, about the solar consumer protection work group. And there'll be opportunities to share social media and otherwise. And yeah, we encourage you to contact your legislator. If you're interested in that, you can reach out to us again, especially if you have personal stories or know folks that have personal stories relating to kind of solar consumer protection. We'd be thrilled to be in touch. But yeah, otherwise we will be in touch via email. I will be down at the General Assembly a few days a week at least, wearing a suit and all that good stuff. So if you're down there, please come say hi. And yeah, look forward to doing this again sometime. But with that, we will let you all have a few minutes of your life back, your Monday night. And thanks very much for joining us. And we'll see you later. Thank you.